Welcome back, everyone, to episode 18 of Show and Tell. This is just my small adventure to highlight the creators and contributors to the Magic the Gathering community. Today, I am super excited to be joined by streamer, cosplayer, singer, draft enthusiast, artist, Jamie Topples. Jamie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Wow, thank you for having me. That's quite the intro. I do a lot of stuff, I guess.
You do, and I try to make sure. I wanted to make sure I get the whole picture of Jamie in just a short little snapshot. I'm sure there's much more than those four things, but these this is where we're going to start. I always kind of joke my favorite places to start is usually at the beginning. So as a kind of a Magic player, so tell me about your history with Magic. When did you start playing, and what kind of got you into Magic in general?
Well, okay, so Christmas, it was December 2014. My husband John had played when he was a kid. He played like during Ice Age and stuff. That's when he stopped because he was in 4th grade and he couldn't really afford the good cards, right?
Yeah.
Magic's a little bit expensive. And it was back then too. But he always says like he could have got a Black Lotus for like $100 or something.
Oh, I'm sure.
But as a kid, that was like ridiculous. So he couldn't convince his mom to get him one. But so he stopped for a while. And then one day we were playing cards with some friends. They were over and I was like, I just really love holding cards. And he was like, ooh, ding, 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 let's teach her Magic. So he went on Amazon and bought Clash packs. And he was so excited that he showed me the order before they like went out. And I was such a jerk. I started crying. I was like, I don't want to learn this. No. Like I was in massage therapy school at the time. And I was taking anatomy and like, it was like really tough. Like I actually had to study and I was like, what is happening? Like as a kid, I have ADHD. So like, I just pick stuff up quick. I never really learned how to study. So I was overwhelmed at the time. And, I was a jerk. And then so he canceled the order and I was like, oh no. Like I sat and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I had that reaction. Like, you know what I like. I'm sure this is going to be great. Let's try it. Please reorder this. Look, we got this. And so he did. And, I started at the kitchen table like a lot of people do. So I really liked it. And like then he started watching stuff on Twitch and I was like, why are you watching Magic? Like, why wouldn't you just want to like play? Like, I'm never going to watch that. Yeah. And then he was like, well, do you want to go to the game shop and play? And I'm like, oh, no. But then like we went and I was like, oh my gosh, this was so fun. And I like saved my Planeswalker point stuff before they retired that. My first pre-release was Fate Reforged. And I actually went 3 and 2. I was like, wow. Yeah. But then, okay, so we started going to drafts. And my first draft, I went 0-4. Yeah. So you got to get your butt kicked for a while.
I'm real bad. Yeah, don't worry. I'm horrible at drafting. So that's, yeah.
It's hard. It's like, there's so many moving pieces. So it's actually like pretty incredible that's pretty much what I latched onto right away. Like we went to pre-releases and then like every week, like after that first draft, I was hooked. I was like, I want to do this. I want to get better. I want to be like the end boss. Like, yeah. And it took me, I think, about 6 months to win an FNM.
Oh wow, that's pretty good. I mean, gosh, I have played very little, I guess, competitive. FNM is considered competitive, especially competitive Magic.
Sure.
And I went to one FNM and I got destroyed by everybody. I never drafted before. I was in college, I think, at that point. And I had a friend who was really into drafting, and I like texting him like, do you have any advice? And he was just like, I think bread was the acronym at the time, like just look for bombs and removal and evasion, and I don't remember whatever else it was.
Nobody ever does.
I was like, those are the big ones. And I just got destroyed. It was the original Ravnica. It was a Friday Night Adventure when original Ravnica just came out, and it was an interesting time. I had no idea what I was doing, and I don't even think at that point I knew how the stack worked.
Right.
I always joke that I went to college and got an education in Magic because I had a friend who was like, this is the last in, first out, and this is how like you actually play the game. I was like, oh yeah, we used to just you do things. You put creatures down and like you just play cards and good luck with interaction or anything on the sidewalk Magic circuit. It doesn't really exist. So you are mostly a limited player, correct? Is that fair to say? Or
Correct.
only limited player?
That's where my heart lies. I just like drafts. I think they're so exciting because it sort of like evens the playing field, right? Like everybody, you can open like a bomb, and like if it turns out really well, like beginners can beat like veterans. Like try to do that in constructed. That's tough. Like constructed, you have to be like your plays have to be tight. You have to know the matchups, like all that. Like it ends up being like super repetitive, and it's more. I don't know. It feels more like chess at that point, right? Like it's sort of like I don't know. It's just so different. Like draft is just it's always new and fresh, and like I don't know. I just never get tired of it. It's so much fun.
I go back and forth because I think about. I guess I would say I'm mostly a constructed player. I am. I mostly just play. I mostly play Historic Brawl and Arena these days, but Commander
Cool.
I think is like my favorite format. But I think about like what's the purest form of Magic? Is it a constructed deck where you need to know your matchups, you need to know you need to know your deck, you need to know like the best lines, or is it something like limited where you're really just relying on your skill as a player because you're going to get a different kind of deck every time. And you're going to play, and your opponent's deck is going to be kind of whatever as well. You're never really sure what's going to show up, right? So it's, they definitely probably both have their skill level. Oh, obviously, they both have their skill levels involved, but really, I guess it really just depends what you're trying to get out of the game when you're playing.
Yeah, it's so different. But that's what I love about Magic is like there's something for everybody. It feels like, right? Like they even like jump in. Like you can just do something basic like that too.
Yeah.
The
I think the best way I've heard Magic explained is it's a game engine as opposed to like a particular like way to play, because it's like you have limited and draft, and you have commander, and you have jumpstart, which is pretty actually a brilliant design feat. Just be able to take two kind of decks and slap them together just to kind of get someone in the game. But yeah, something for everything. That's probably definitely the allure why it's been the game for so long. So, well, that's I don't think I've actually. I'm trying to think if I know a whole lot of limited players specifically. Most people I've had on this show have been Commander players. Obviously, Commander I think is probably definitely the number one format. Doesn't say means better than anything. But I'm actually always kind of intimidated by limited players because I'm just like I'm bad at this. I don't know. You talk about, you need to draft like these color pairings or these archetypes are always so good. I'm just like, I don't. I like this card, and this card looks fun, and it's just never good for it's never good for me when I try.
It takes a while. Like it really does. I would say definitely over 1,000 drafts under my belt. Like, I have 6,000 hours of Magic streamed, like 6,500 or something.
Wow. That's
Plus,
impressive.
I went to a bunch of GPs, and like when I first started playing, I was very obsessive about it. Like, I would listen to like limited resources every week, and like, oh my gosh, what can I learn? And like, I was hungry for knowledge. And then at some point, I was like, I stopped consuming content as much because I like to figure things out on my own, right? Like, see what works, see what doesn't. Because, I try to just navigate it by myself now, which, some people would be like, oh, that's terrible. You should definitely consume content. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get tired of it. I love it, and I want to continue to love it. And get,
Well, I would guess it's hard, too, because, and again, I don't have a ton of background on Limited, because I know when they design sets, they probably have general limited archetypes in mind, I think, when they design the colors and color pairings. But if you're listening to a lot of content based on drafting, you're kind of setting yourself up just to kind of follow the same draft strategies as who you're listening to, which could clash with maybe your particular play style that you enjoy playing, or that you may think would be better. I don't know if that's fair to say.
Yeah. So Lords of Limited is also like a fantastic thing to listen to. They're awesome. They draft a ton. Like they're just like in the trenches, like out there drafting all the time. Yeah. And they have like a community on Discord where they like try to figure things out. But the one thing that like I just get annoyed at is when they like try to like be like, okay, well this card is this much better than this card. It's like, well, okay, does that really matter? Like when you're drafting, you got to see what fits like your deck. Like you need to take, so. I don't know, when people are always like quoting like 17 lands, well, 17 lands says, it's like, I don't care what 17 lands says, you know. The people on 17 lands have like a average of 52% win rate, which is not bad. It's not bad, okay, but like, you know, if I'm in best of 3, if I'm not above 60%, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. I know it sounds kind of snobby.
Well, no, you know, and we'll kind of get into it, but you're a professional Magic player, right? You're a professional streamer. You play a ton of Magic, so you would think, you know, it'd probably be kind of disheartening if you played like if you streamed Magic for 6,500 hours and your win rate was 50-50 or even, you know, around there, because you would think at some point like you would kind of, because I think I saw somewhere like technically like the pros or the really like high end players, like they tend to have about on average a 60%, 65% win rate, right? Which in a bubble, in a vacuum, doesn't sound like super impressive per se, but like when you think about like gameplay and just the variation and just, you know, how your hands and you're gonna get flooded and screwed X amount of times anyways is very impressive, right? So
right, there's like, I don't know what the amount is. I don't think anybody has an exact, but like let's say like 20% of your games you're gonna lose to flood or screw. Like it just happens.
Yeah,
like there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, and
so
I'm sure,
it's trying to find like the little edges and stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes you just got to go with your gut, right? If it's a card and it's like, well, this is 0.06% better than the other one, but like if you like that other, if you got a feeling, you know, sometimes you just the card gods are in your favor and you have that right card at the right time or what have you, and it's like, see, this is the reason why I took this card.
I try not to like focus too much on win rate, because like, okay, when I'm streaming, like I'm kind of having conversations, I get a little distracted, and then like I know I could play a lot better if I was like really just focused on the game, but like I don't know, I think it's just so much fun to have Magic like in the background and like just hanging out. Like that's I don't know.
I mean, if you're not so to that point, when you first kind of were really getting into it and you started really drafting a lot and going and you talk about Planeswalker points, were you like really trying to like do the professional Magic player thing, or were you just trying to like be a lot like what, you know, like what was your kind of initial focus when you really started kind of getting into it?
Okay, so back in the day, there was this show on YouTube. It was Walking the Plains. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No.
Nate Holt hosted it. It's it really was. He followed around, like he went to GPs and like pro tours and like interviewed the players. You got to know like who the pros were and stuff. So like, I'd never like been like a sports fan or anything. Like I just. I don't know, I never was into it, but like with Magic, I was like, oh my gosh, these people are so cool. Like they know what they're doing. Like Magic is so hard. Like they must be brilliant and all this stuff. So like I kind of like followed the pro scene because of Walking the Plains, and I was like, I want to be a professional. I want to do what they're doing. It's so cool, because back in the day, the pro scene, you could actually make money being a pro. Like you could. It was really difficult, right? But like it was possible with how they had it structured. Like nowadays it's really hard to do that. It's just but so I remember like going to GPs and being like starstruck when I'd see like Ben Stark or like LSV or Marshall. I'd be like, oh my god, like so yeah, I was like, I just really wanted to be like as good as like Ben Stark, but like that's very hard to do because he's been playing since he was a kid, right? Like I don't have 25 years of playing Magic. I have almost 10. Like that's pretty weird to me that it's been 10 years, but yeah.
Yeah, I think about like when I started playing, I'm just like, oh gosh, very old.
I'm still at like, I think it's 9 and a half almost, but yeah.
Almost there.
It's weird.
Close enough. Yeah. I mean, even you know, do something for that long, like obviously, you know, you're eventually, you kind of hit that. What is that? You put 10,000 hours into something, like puts you at a particular skill level, and I mean, you have 65 just streaming. That's not even, you know, off camera play. So I can only imagine. You know, you're definitely probably up there in the top. I would say top echelons of you know, players, right? Because you put in the work.
It's well, okay. So I have like some neurodiversities, right? I have like really pretty bad ADHD. So there's some days where I'm just like, I can't think about like a few turns, like I can't think about 2 or 3 turns after like my turn that I'm on. Like it's just I can't do it. So like some days I'm just like, I have potato brain, this is not gonna work. So but there's some days where I'm like real sharp and I'm like, yes. Like when you like when you win a game, you're not supposed to win, right? Like when you just like really just get those like tiny, tiny little edges, and you're like, oh my gosh, like it feels so good.
Oh yeah, and that's I've got a dog in the background. I love dogs.
Enzo. Hi.
This is also a dog podcast, so don't worry about it. We like the dogs. So if you want, they want to come up, we'll not complain. Yeah, there's always something. I mean, you talk about like sports. Not everyone can be a professional athlete, right? There's like a lot of times physical limitations that you kind of have with, but like being able to play Magic, it's kind of like it's very accessible to a lot of people. Shouldn't say everyone, but it's you have the ability to kind of get into it. And yeah, there's these moments. I play golf poorly, but there's a pretty famous golf book. It's called Harvey Penick's Little Red Book, and they talk about you could have like the worst day, and on the last hole you could hit like you hit the sweet spot on your swing, and it's like that moment is what keeps you coming out the next round. And I think it's a lot. Magic's a lot like that, where you could be having, you're on the draw all day, or you're just keep losing, you keep getting flooded, but then you'll have that one game, or you'll just pull something, a rabbit out of the hat, and you'll get this awesome win or whatever, and you're just like, oh yeah, this is why I continue to play this game, and draws you back in. It's like an addiction. Good addiction, I guess.
Definitely.
Or depending. It can be bad depending on your wallet. Sometimes this game definitely getting a little pricey in certain areas.
Yeah, definitely. That's the one thing I wish it was like more accessible, because it is very expensive. But like probability, you learn probability from math. I mean, from Magic, right? Like it's great.
Yeah,
like
a lot of math skills that you think about. It's like, well, if I have this many lands, and this is my percentage of drawing a lands, and hitting stuff on curve, and this and that, and fitting my deck, which apparently maybe more so in Limited. I know in Constructed now they say like, well, fitting your deck only helps. This again, going back to percentage, 1% difference is really going to make a difference. But I would think any percentage advantage you can get in like playing a game, why would you not want? I mean, I would take a 2% advantage versus no percentage advantage in any situation, right? Like, couldn't
that
hurt.
adds up over time to your win rate. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, like I said, I'm always like, Limited befuddles me, and I'm always impressed by people who are really into it and play a lot of it, because I'm just like, I don't. And again, I'm sure if I sat down and got into it, maybe it would interest me. But I used to joke, and this is going to sound probably like a bougie Constructed player. It was like, I don't want to have to play a 4-5-5-5 vanilla. That's the creatures. A lot of times you play in Limited, but that's obviously
right,
I don't know
flashy.
a lot of. Yeah, they're not flashy. Exactly. They get the job done. So maybe that's the real story of Limited is Limited players get the job done. By any means necessary.
I feel like if you're a really solid Limited player, it translates really well into Constructed, right? Because you just get so familiar with playing like all kinds of archetypes and like different matchups, and like you're just really familiar. I think it's easier to transition from Limited to Constructed, but most people do Constructed to Limited, right? Like I would say it's pretty unusual that I pretty much did all drafts like the whole time. So yeah. I play a little bit of Constructed here and there. I was in the VML just for fun. I do like to compete, not so much to try to win, because like your odds of like, okay, so there's an open this weekend and I'm going to try it because I do like Shadows. I think it's a fun set. So, and Sealed is always pretty interesting. There is a lot of skill in Sealed. But there's a lot of, did you open bombs that synergize together? Did you have 2 deep colors that you can play? Like there's a lot of variance as well, but I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know where I was going with this.
You like to compete, but you don't necessarily like.
Compete, yeah.
Compete,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's nice that you do it at home. It's about $25, like,
okay,
to do it, which seems expensive, and it kind of is. But instead of like going out to like a shop or whatever, like you can do it from the comfort of your home, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Hey, can I ask you a dumb question? How is sealed? Like, what is sealed? Like, what is the sealed format? I know there's something. This is one of those things where like I could just look up on the Magic website, but what exactly is sealed versus just draft? I think it's a version of draft. I don't. They're really
not really
exposing
no.
my breath.
They're both
of,
limited.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, because you're not coming with the deck, right? That
Yeah.
constructed is you have your deck, right?
Yes.
And
Got
then
that.
okay, limited is you have to work with the. I always think of like the limited resources that you have, right?
Okay.
So draft is there's 3 packs.
Okay.
Everybody opens a pack, takes a card, passes it,
Okay.
right? That's how that works until all the cards are gone.
Yeah.
Then you do the next pack and you go the opposite way. It's kind of weird in person, but yeah. Um, Sealed is you have 6 packs, you open them and you make a deck from those 6 packs.
Okay. So you just get, are they all from the same, well, are they all typically from the same set? Are they over?
Yes.
Okay. So you just get 6 packs and it's just like make a deck, go to town.
Yep. And
Got it.
then, I mean, what you have, like, you can't change anything out. Like, it's just, sometimes you open packs and you're like, wow, this is garbage. Like, I can almost just tell, like, it's not even worth playing because, like, yeah, like, it a lot of times it's like, do you have really good rares? Do you have good removal? Like, if you don't have those things, it's going to be rough.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes total sense. And I'm probably going to clip that and make that a YouTube short because that's a very good explanation. And, I don't know. Shorts are good things to do for recognition. I think on YouTube now, anyways. But no, that was good. Yeah, I knew it had to do with like packs and like everything has to do with packs. That's stupid to say, but I thought relative to what you have. But okay, you get your packs and you just make a deck. All right, cool. Well, that sounds. I don't know why that sounds less intimidating than just drafting. Maybe because you don't have. Maybe I'm just scared of passing the pack to someone and like pick. I don't know. Maybe that's intimidating to me. I don't know. Maybe that's a little less.
Drafting is pretty brutal because, like, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Like, a lot of times when people are new, they'll open like a rare and they're like, oh, this card's really good, so I'm just gonna stay in that color. They're never gonna try to switch lanes. Like, I'm gonna force this, so that like has repercussions, right? So there's definitely a difference between drafting with people at like F&M where like maybe they draft once a month or like once every few months, like, and drafting at like when you go to a Grand Prix and on day 2 you're drafting with people there, like that's like a real different feel. Like, people, like, signals are a lot clearer and like, yeah, it's kind of all over the place. So I understand why draft is intimidating. It's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And then people are like judging you sometimes too. They'll be like, why did you pass that? And you're like, oh, I don't know. Like,
was that good? Should I kept that? I don't know. Like, I'm just gonna keep this force, okay? Like, yeah, that'd be me. Like, I'm just gonna keep all the lands and whatever, the dual land, the common dual tap dual lands. That'll be good, right? Color fixing. I know color fixing is important. That's I don't know. I'm running a monocolored deck, but I'm gonna get my color fixing, and that's important. So
it depends on the set. Sometimes like 3-color decks are really good. Like,
yeah. That makes sense.
They're all over the place.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Gosh, thank you for the sealed explanation, because it's definitely been one of those things where I should look up what that means, and it's probably like a 30-second Google, but no, straight from an expert herself. So appreciate you. So let's talk about. So obviously you play a lot of limited, but I know you mostly as a streamer. So you obviously stream a lot on Twitch, 6,500 hours. So what appealed to you about to start streaming? Like, what was like, what, I like playing, but let's start streaming. What was that transition like?
Well, I mean, so I think it's an ADHD thing, right? Like, sometimes I just get very excited about things and I'm like, I'm going down that rabbit hole. Like, I'm going to see what happens. Like, I got pretty addicted to Magic, and then like there was a couple guys like at F&M, they would consistently win all the time. And I was like, oh, okay, like they must know what's up. Like, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try to get my reps in. And like streaming, I thought, okay, well, people will come watch and maybe they'll give me feedback, and like I can learn faster. And that is what happened in the beginning. Like, people would tell me what to do, and I would argue with them at times. Like, there was pros that would come into my channel, like Eric Froelich. He would come in a lot and just like hang out and stuff. And Justin Cohen. I forget who was there in like the early days, but I would sass them, and like they knew what they were doing, but I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that because blah blah blah. Like, they were probably, it must have been so funny because like I was a beginner, right? Like, being a beginner, like, beginners make really funny mistakes and they say really silly things, right? Like, and you're just like, oh, what's going on in their head? Like, what is the thought process here? So I'm sure they got a real kick out of it. But I improved pretty quickly, I would say. because I think I like hyper focused on magic. I think that was the thing, like that happened. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
what
there's
did you
worse
find?
things to hyper focus on.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
very true.
it was a good one.
Um, so, what I mean, what was the hardest part you found when you kind of started streaming? Was it just, so I like a lot of people when we kind of had the lockdowns, I dabbled with streaming a little bit, and I would find myself on a streaming to zero, or like maybe one or two of my friends would pop in, but then I realized it had been like 20 minutes, and I hadn't actually said, not that there was anyone to talk to, but like probably practice, but I hadn't said a word, right? I'm just sitting there, playing arena or what have you. But like, did you find when you kind of started, there was like, oh, I have to, have a personality, or I really want to work on like, talking through my lines, or was there something that you remembered that stuck out to you that was kind of difficult that you've kind of gone through, or?
Well, so pretty much the whole time, what I do, like, especially like if there's just like every once in a while, there's like lulls in streams too. Like, even if you are like a professional streamer or whatever, like sometimes people will just be like, oh, they're vibing, they're at work, or they're doing whatever, just have you on the background. So I think it is very important for streamers to be able to talk to themselves. I know that sounds weird, but like for me, it's like just kind of talk through your thought process. Why are you doing what you're doing? Like, what makes this card interesting? Like, you can even talk about the art or whatever, or like, yeah, just try to keep the conversation flowing, and like you can ask questions, so then people be like, oh, well, like, okay, like try to get them like more involved. But I think that's my favorite part of streaming now, is like the conversations, and like there's people who have been with me for years. Like today I had a couple resubs. They've been subbed for 70 months. I mean, that is like unreal. Yeah. So I try not to like take that for granted, because that's like really cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, it's nice. I mean, that's, I think, part of the allure, maybe, I don't know if allure is the right term, but like, when you kind of start streaming, you start building these communities. I think the community building part, I think, is part of the fun of becoming streamer, content creator, what have you. And it's nice to see like kind of the fruits of that labor, right? Having these people that have kind of stuck with you. I try to do quick math, but it's going to be bad. So 5 years is 60. It's over 5 years, right? So on the spot math, over 5 years, right? That's got to be over 5 years. 70 months. It's really embarrassing. I'm going to take my calculator because I want it exact.
Right. So 48 months is 4 years,
so
right?
4, and then 5 is
60.
60. So and then 12 is almost 6 years. So almost 6 years, right? So you've had dedicated viewer, subs, not even just viewer, but subs for over almost 6 years is like, that's pretty incredible, and it's, I mean, it's really, it's really a testament to, I would say, you, and you're obviously like your playing ability is probably part of it, but I think it's just probably the community you've cultivated. Like that's a pretty big signpost if like you have something good going on there.
Yeah. It's honestly like it's incredible. Like, I mean, there's so many content creators these days. Like, the fact that people have stuck around that long, or like sometimes I won't see people for years, and they'll stop in and I'll be like, oh my gosh, like, it's so good to see you. Like, how are you doing? Like, yeah, it's cool. The community is the best part of streaming for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, I talk a lot about community on the show, and I think there's a lot of good and fun actors in the Magic community, and I pop in your stream a lot. I don't talk a lot when I watch, usually because I'm at work, but I really enjoy watching you play. You have a very big personality. I think it's probably fair to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think you definitely have one of the more fun streams to kind of check out. So I do encourage people to check out Jamie's stream. It will be linked to all that good stuff below.
Cool.
Do you have any advice for people who maybe are interested in kind of getting into streaming, or any little nuggets of wisdom you wish you would have known before you started?
I think a really good way to do it is to be part of the community first. Like, go and watch streams and like talk and like get involved in people's discords and stuff, because that way, like, if you do like mention that you start streaming, like, I always want to like support the people who who have helped me, who have been around. Like, of course I want to like see them succeed. Like, I think that's just a good way to do it, instead of just popping up out of nowhere and being like, oh, I'm a streamer now. Like, there's a lot of competition, so like, don't get upset if it takes a long time to build. It's just it's part of it. Like, and it's for me, when I started streaming, there was, I mean, Arena didn't exist. It was Magic Online. So the people that were playing Magic and watching Magic really gotta love Magic to watch MTGO.
Yeah.
So it's not pretty. There's not like flashy stuff like Arena. Yeah, so they were like kind of diehard people. It took me a while to build, but like I got pretty fortunate. I had like, I think my first stream had 1 viewer, and they didn't say anything. I was just like so nervous. I just like talked or whatever, and then yeah, it sort of built up at like to a few, then 5, then 10. Then for a while, like before I was partner, I'd be at like 30, 40, like when I was affiliate or whatever. And just sort of like goes up, because the biggest thing is consistency. So if you're going to start doing it, like I would say, try to do as many days as you can. Like don't burn out, right? Like obviously like take care of yourself and your mental health or whatever. But the more consistent you are with like a schedule and stuff, the easier it is for people to find you. And then like you sort of become part of their daily routine. Like that's the thing. Like sometimes when I take off, people be like, oh, who am I going to watch this week when I'm at work? Like, you're in my background. It's like, that's nice. Like, it's cool to be missed and stuff. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think people realize the importance of consistency in streaming. That's really how you kind of build your audience. Is you find your kind of your time or your niche, because then you're right. Because people, like I have streamers who I kind of have a schedule like throughout the day of who I kind of bop around to. If I'm just kind of working on my computer. I had to laugh though. You talked about when you first started streaming, you were streaming just like to one person. I can remember when I streamed, I had someone popped in that was not one of my friends, so it was just some random person. I just immediately like got super red. I could feel like the nervous sweat. Like, I just like, oh gosh, this is a random person. Like, here we go. Like, and it was like the silliest thing. I don't even know, like, were they actually watching? Did they just hit my thing by accident? Who knows? But it's it could be tough. But yeah, the thing I hear, I think the most from streamers is definitely the consistency aspect. Is just you got to give it consistency, but give it time. Let it work itself through.
Yeah, well, and like I would say, be authentic. Like be you, right? Because if you try to like copy what other people are doing, like they're sort of like, I don't know, a template for Magic. Like you do drafts, you enter like whatever, like But yeah, I would say, because I've seen people like try to copy, and that just like never really works, right? Like, just show up as yourself and hope for the best. It's hard. It's really hard these days. Like I said, when I first started, there was like maybe 50 people total who was streaming Magic, and I was like one of 4 women, so like it was like easier to be noticed, I guess, at that time, because there wasn't very many. And like look, like today, like there's a lot of women, non-binary people playing, and that's awesome. Like I love to see it. Yep, definitely. It's like a very diverse community, and
it is. Yeah, and I think that's part of the strength of the Magic community. I think is it has strength in its diversity. Which is I know it's excuse me, something we try to focus on here on Show and Tell. That was a weird little self promo there, but there it is. And I think that's again, I think that there is a big strength in the community, and for the most part, as you kind of start engaging with people typically tend to be very friendly and very welcoming and very helpful. You can reach out a lot of places, and people will answer questions or kind of help with different problems you may have, which is always nice to see. So let's so veering away a little bit from streaming, we kind of touched on this before. So you do a little bit of cosplay as well, which I've always, and we're, always give props to cosplayers, because like the work that goes into cosplaying, I don't think non-cosplaying people truly realize like the amount of effort that is involved with like a cosplay. And I think, you've done a Liliana. I don't know if I put down Liliana the Veil, but I don't know if that was the actual it was might have been Dark Run.
Yeah.
There's so many versions of.
There are. The Liliana of the Veil, that's like the dress. I have the one that's like my belly is out. I don't know how else to say it. It's like it's like a bralette or something. I forget what you'd actually call it. But yes. So I was obsessed with Lily when I first started playing Magic. I just like love her. I think she's like so cool. Like she just doesn't take any, I don't know, BS. She just, she is like herself, and she maybe a little bit too ambitious, but for me, that's like a good role model, because a lot of times, like, I think I kind of grew up as like a people pleaser. Like I never wanted to hurt people's feelings, like, like blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, no, like, hey, I'm an adult. Like I try to be kind, of course, but if somebody comes at me and they're like rude, it's like, I can call them out on it and not try to like eggshell, like walk on eggshells, try to like deal with it or whatever. So anyways, obsessed with Lily. I actually had a dream that I got my spark. So I was like, oh my gosh. And I just like, I was like, I want to dress up as her. I want to look like her. She's awesome. I want to do this. And then I was like, wait, I don't know how to sew. How am I going to do this? So my husband's mother was like, she's worked on like clothing a lot. She's done a lot of like knitting, crocheting, seamstress stuff. She was like, oh my gosh, let me help you with this. This is a fun project. So like we like drew up like prototypes and stuff, and it's a beautiful cosplay, honestly. Like I need to wear it more, but yeah, I was always a little bit insecure about having my belly out like in public. So I was like, this was quite the cosplay to pick, but no, I think it's like very empowering to wear something like that because it's awesome. It looks really cool.
For sure. I mean, I think it's probably part of the, Lily, I think, is a very empowering character, especially if you were grown, I felt like I'm someone, when I grew up, I was very, I say sorry all the time, even like I haven't done anything wrong. So like being able to kind of channel that's, I think, a kind of a good outlet sometimes. But yeah, I mean, that's cool. I think, cosplaying is it's just fun, like being able to kind of dive into a role and like really, portray a character that inspires you. That's kind of definitely a fun opportunity. And I mean, if your mother-in-law is a master seamstress, like that's always a nice little advantage to have on your side as well, I would say.
Right, and she was just so cool with like me wearing this like little, it's kind of, there's not very much to that costume. It's like, I don't know how else to say it. It's like, it's hard to like where can I wear that basically, because a lot of times like at GPs it's cold, so I'm like, there's no way I'm wearing that. Like it needs to be like summer and like, but yeah. So I actually, one of my friends made me the headpiece, and it's like it just kind of balances on my head, but it makes me nervous because it's like really sharp. I'm always like, and I'm clumsy, so I'm like, oh, I think I want to try to get a 3D crown printed at some point.
Well, that's pretty cool. So okay. You mentioned being clumsy. Maybe I'm silly. So I didn't, and I don't know if this is really common knowledge, I didn't realize, like, I thought so jamietopples, like, Topples is a nickname, right? That's not your actual.
Yes.
So,
correct.
I was, I just thought that was just your name. But I think it comes
You're not the only one. It's totally, I get that a lot. No, so Topples comes from, like, me being, like, really clumsy. Like, today I tripped over my green screen and almost, like, bonked my head on my filing cabinet. Like, it's just, I don't pay attention to my body. I have like a bunch of bruises. I just started taking jiu-jitsu, so I'm like really like into that these days. But yeah, look at these muscles are
bigger than mine. I'm just getting old. I play basketball, but I hurt my knee, and it took about 2 months to heal. And I like went out to play for the first time, and like everything was just sore for like a day and a half. I could barely sit down. I was like, oh gosh, it's getting to the point, and there was just like, how much longer can my body sustain this? But then there's like guys out there who are like in their 50s and like early 60s. I'm like, well, if they can still do it, like we can push through. But it's tough. It gets tougher every time I go out. If you don't, I gotta ice both my knees when I come back, and it's just like at the heating pad and just.
Yep.
It's wild. But so jiu-jitsu, okay, little behind the scenes look, when I have my guests on, I have them fill out a form, and one of the bottom things I asked is like, oh, is there anything in particular you want to talk about? And you mentioned making a career about doing jiu-jitsu and crashing weddings.
I was panic.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, it's, it was very funny. I'm like, okay, well, so jiu-jitsu, that's pretty cool. Like what, how long have you been doing jiu-jitsu for?
Okay, so let me preface. I do have bipolar disorder, so there's times where I'm very manic and like I say yes to all these things. I'm like, yes, I have all this energy. I'm gonna do this, and this, and then the balancing out of the depression comes. So I'm like sort of in my depression dip at the moment. But yes, so right, jiu-jitsu. I called them. Basically, I was playing Magic one day, and I was like, my brain is just, like, not working at full efficiency. Like, I need to take care of my body, too, right? Because a lot of times I'll just sit at my computer. Like, I had, like, a Fitbit. I lost it in Vegas. Oh, my gosh. It's so sad. I got to get another one. But there were some days where I would do, like, 2,000 steps, and that's it. Like, I mean, I just wasn't moving around. Yeah. So, like, how can you expect your brain to function at its peak when you're not like eating well and not like moving, right?
Yeah.
So I called the jiu-jitsu place, and I was like, hey, I want to get better at Magic the Gathering. I want to be like real serious and like compete and like play constructed. Like I literally said that, and he like the dude laughed at me on the phone. He was like, what are you talking about? I was like, why are you laughing? This is serious. Like,
ma'am, this is a Wendy's. I don't.
Yeah. So that was my story. Like I came in there, I was like, I want to get better at Magic, and I just like went ham. Like I went like 2 days a week. Like these are like 2.5 hour classes. Like, I mean,
Oh, wow.
yesterday we did sparring for 2 hours. Like the whole time we were fighting, and I'm like, okay, this is a lot. Like, but I wanted a good workout where I didn't feel like I was working out. Like, I mean, yes, it's like, it's very intense, and like, I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life, honestly. Like,
Yeah,
I feel
no, that's
very good. But it's something else. It's like, I can't believe at the end of class, like the time flies. It's just so much fun. I love to fight. Like, I really do truly love it. I hope it's something I can turn into, like, not necessarily a career, but I would love to do coaching, because it's one of those, it's another field that's like male dominated, right? Like you don't see that many women, especially, I'm 35. So I showed up at 35 and I was like, hey, I want to get better at this really nerdy card game. Okay. And people are probably like, what is that? Where did you come from? Yeah. So
What's that's
I was doing sword fighting too, which was also super fun, but I had to let it go because I'm doing art. I'm making a mural in my freaking living room right now.
yeah. Oh, so okay, we're gonna put a pin in sword fighting because I love swords.
Okay, yes.
But I to your point, it's funny because your point about it doesn't feel like working out. Like I don't like the idea of like going to the gym. Like I can't. That does not hold any interest. That's why I continue to drag my old I play basketball because I'll play basketball for like 2.5 hours. And, like that's a workout,
right.
But like it's fun. Like you're engaging in a sport. So I totally relate to like, well, I don't I can't just go and I'm not going to lift weights for an hour. And some people who do that, like that's great. I'm glad you can do that. But
if they like it, cool.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
And there's also people who like, I'm going to go run 4 miles. I'm like, why would you do that on purpose? Like,
yeah. Oh no, I used to run a lot, but I never enjoyed it. I told people like I run for just to like to exercise. Like I run for a specific purpose, but I don't enjoy it. I always hate running. It's just one of those things that I could bring myself to do. But yeah, it's
do you get the runner's high?
No,
Was that a thing? Oh, okay.
I think it is a thing, but I never I never I don't know what it was about running that I chose that as my exercise of whatever. Maybe because it was just easy to do. I put running shoes on, and I guess listening to music. I like music, so like I can
efficient.
Yeah, right. You just go knock at a 2-mile run in like half an hour or something, and you feel you've done something. But it's 2 hours. It's always 2 hours, 20 minutes of misery. I'm just like I hate why do I do this to myself every time? And you get halfway down. I usually would make myself go down. So I had to come back. So I kind of trapped myself. So it's like can't end it too early. But yeah, I think it's important. You kind of have to enjoy. Working out a lot of times isn't necessarily like fun, but if you can find a way to make it enjoyable, that's it's a good way to kind of keep in shape and keep yourself healthy. And I would imagine as a streamer, especially, how long do your streams normally run? Do you normally do like a pretty long streams when you kind of play?
At this point, I usually do like 4 or 5 hours, 5 days
Okay.
a week. That's what I shoot for. There was a point in time where I was like working, like I did massage therapy. There was a point where I was doing chair massage in a poker room in Pittsburgh. It was super fun.
Okay.
But so I only had time to stream a few days a week, so I would stream like 3 10-hour days in a row. I did that for a while. I've done 24-hour streams in the past, just playing Magic. I've done like 4 or 5 of those. Insane.
Yeah, that's wild. I can't even.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of Magic. But even like a 4 or 5 hour session. You're really just sitting at a computer, right? Like you're stagnant and.
I have a standing desk, which sometimes I use, but
Well,
not usually, because especially with jiu-jitsu, like it's tiring me out. Like I am like, last night I was at like my limit. I was like, I have nothing left to give. Like my last fight, we're doing like 4-minute fights, and I'm fighting dudes that are bigger than me, and I'm like, I can't. It was brutal. But it's really fun.
That's good. How long have you been doing it now for? Like, how long have you actually been doing jiu-jitsu for?
Okay, so I walked in there on December 5th at 5:55 p.m.
Okay.
Not on
Wow.
purpose, but I was like, oh wow, this is cool.
It's a sign.
Yes, so I'm coming up on 4 months.
Okay.
We do rolling. We do throwing. I'm taking an extra judo class to like get better at throws. I can throw dudes that are like 200 pounds, right? I weigh 125, so
That's good.
I'm strong.
Are you going to do any like competitions or anything like that? Is that something that interests
I
you?
think so. I think I would like to compete, but I don't want to rush myself. So
Yeah.
maybe like late summer, early fall, just to see. Like I don't expect to win. It's kind of like with magic. Like when you compete at first, like, you know, you got to like get used to playing under that kind of pressure, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with jiu-jitsu. You got to learn how to fight under pressure.
For sure. Sometimes it's just the thought of competition that, you know what I mean? Like, you don't, there's a different mindset and there's a different like experience when you're competing in a, you know, be it a sport or a card game versus just, you know, playing casually or whatever. And it's a different kind of high, I guess. I don't know if high is the right word, but different vibe maybe.
Higher stakes, right? I mean, and
Yeah.
it's learning how to like navigate that, what that means to you. Like for me, being competitive, I want to be competitive so I don't lose all my gems, right? Like, so I try to, you know, play well so that I can like, the dream is to go infinite, right? And people
Yeah.
say this all the time. They're like, oh, I'm infinite. And I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? And they're like, oh, I draft once a week for free. Oh, okay, great. That's cool. That's what that means for you. But I'm doing like 15 drafts a week, right? So
Yeah.
like for me to be infinite is you know, I have to get like, 70% win rate plus probably to be
Yeah.
truly infinite.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a lot of winning. It's a lot of winning you got to kind of focus on, and like I feel like it's one of the things too. Like if you're so close and you lose that, but that mindset though, there is like a different kind of way to approach playing or competing or whatever. And I think sometimes entering. Oh, I'm gonna cough. Hang on. Very unprofessional. There we go.
It's not unprofessional.
This is not a professional show, so hope you knew what you signed up for. Anyways, yeah, but competition. I think competition can be good, like a little competition. Like as long as you don't get carried away, you know. I think it's good for people to experience a little bit at some point in their life. You know, it's definitely different way to kind of engage with your hobbies, if you will. So
Yes.
talk to me
Well-
about. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, you're good.
I was gonna say talk to me about your sword fighting thing real fast, because that's what was that?
It's so much fun. So there's Pittsburgh Fighters Guild, and they're so cool. Like I love the people in it. I feel so bad because I just was like, I can't be at the gym 5 days a week, y'all. I can't. Like it's just too much for me right now. Like 3 days I can commit to. 5 days is tough because I'm trying to stream. I'm kind of doing like a project where I'm studying the tarot cards, and I'm trying to do like an art thing that goes with it, and also
Okay.
a book that goes along with it. So I'm like writing, like I have ADHD. That's basically what it is. Is like I get excited about projects, I start them, and then I have no idea when I'm going to finish them. So,
Yeah, I can.
yeah, that's my current
relate to
project.
that, yeah.
But sword fighting, we did like HEMA, so they like studied like old school, like medieval sword fighting. They're like, we want to be true to this style. So it was really fun to learn it. People are so amazing. I feel so bad like being like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore, because they were so supportive and kind and stuff. But I was biting off more than I can chew. I need days where I can just like, you know, like not have something scheduled, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to do art and stuff too still, because you can see my paintings like back there. Like I'm just like,
Oh, for sure. I
Doing a lot.
definitely gonna get into your art stuff. But I have what? So I'm gonna do the hosting, and we'll come back to that for sure. But how long did you do the HEMA stuff? What HEMA is his? I used to know that it's an acronym, right?
historical something.
Yeah.
Martial arts.
Martial arts.
Historical E stands for something, and then martial arts. Yeah. Yeah, like it's very fun.
Yeah.
Like if I had more time, like right now I'm just trying to get a little bit more stable. Like I got COVID last August at a Coheed and Cambria concert. They're my favorite band in the whole world. I love them so much. If there was anything worth getting COVID for, it was that concert. But it like messed my immune system up. I had to get off of my like mental health like medications and stuff. Like it was just and then we had a pipe burst in our wall that our insurance didn't cover, and like
Water damage is my
we had to get a new
nightmare.
roof. Like I'm playing catch up. So like I'm like, okay, well, like I'm gonna sell some cards and like just get myself together and like try to come up with a game plan.
Yeah.
Everything's chill, but like I need to like kind of focus on my work a little bit more, and like what does that mean? Does that mean I'm gonna be doing more art, like more magic, like whatever? So yes, like sort of just like, okay, I need to be responsible and not just like running around like doing whatever fun thing or what, like
Yeah.
yes. Like I'm 35, I'm trying to be an adult. It's hard.
It's hard.
'Cause
Yeah. I don't.
Yeah.
It's like I still feel like a 12-year-old. I'm like almost. I just turned 37. I'm just like, am I an adult? I still don't feel like an adult. It's odd.
I think what being an adult means is like you can take care of yourself, right? Like
Yeah.
you can keep yourself like on mostly an even keel. Like if things hit, you can like navigate. Acceptance is a big one. Yeah, like for a while, I just got diagnosed with bipolar disorder at 33, and then at 34 with severe ADHD is my diagnosis.
Oh, geez.
It's been a lot to navigate. Balancing those two aspects is definitely a challenge, but I feel like I finally have like a good balance, and I can say like, okay, this is what I need. These are wants, these are needs. Like trying to like navigate those things responsibly.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, that's good to hear because, I'm sure that was at such a. I want to say we're not old. Like I know we are older, but we're not really that old. But like later in life, like kind of finding that, I'm sure it could have been a shock. But it's good to hear that you've been able to, face it and pivot and adjust and continue to take care of yourself. Right. That's like you said. That's being an adult is really handling when a pipe bursts in your wall and being able to like, okay, well, how do we solve this problem now, right? That's
Yeah, we can't just like let it run forever. Like we have to like get it fixed, right?
yeah, exactly.
So
Water damage just as a homeowner, it's just like
a nightmare.
I hear like the toilet running a little too long. I'm like, is there going to be a pipe thing? Is that going to be my water bill? Or like you look over and we had our master bathroom redone and like put in like a new tub, and it was gorgeous. And then like a month or maybe like a few weeks later, my wife was taking a shower. I was doing the dishes, and like I felt a drop of water on my head. I look up, and
oh no,
the water was just coming down from the ceiling. I was just like, oh, that's probably not good. So I texted our contractor, and luckily he like immediately came out and was just like, oh, there's just like a little thing that like water was coming through. He fixed it all, but it was just like raining in our kitchen. I'm just like, oh, how much is this gonna cost to fix?
Stressful. Yeah.
But
like one little thing, like the art, it ended up being like $7,000 to fix, like to get it like dried out professionally, and like, it was like, but yes, that's part of being an adult is you have to pay for things that you don't want to pay for.
Yeah, it's like this money I'd rather this money go to magic cards, but unfortunately I need to fix my home pipes or that's why. But, so. Take care of your pipes, kids. That's the takeaway. Make sure that your water damage is scary. It's probably I think that's probably the scariest like thing that you can't like really see because it's in the walls. It's in the walls. Anyway, sorry. Now I'm rambling. Where was I going? You were talking about sword fighting, and then you were talking about jiu-jitsu. I had something I was going to say, and I have lost it. All right. Well, if it comes back,
also happens.
Yeah.
When you're adult.
Yes.
The older you get, the more that happens.
Yes, unfortunately. Okay. Well, so I wanted to kind of just mention it. I think so. You were on a podcast, the Ponder podcast.
Yes, with my two friends, TJ and Melvin. It was very fun.
Yeah. I have a funny story about the podcast. Kind of a funny story. Not really that funny. Maybe funny to me. But I did want to say, looks like you did hit over 200 episodes of the podcast. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's in and of itself, 200 episodes. Like, that's impressive. You know what I mean?
We got to 200, and then we called it. That was it.
Yeah, as I was kind of doing research, because I had known about this podcast, and, when I first started this show, I kind of, like, looked into a kind of other magic podcasts and shows that were out there to kind of see if there's someone was kind of already doing this, and there were a few, Magic with Zuby was kind of one, and then obviously I think probably I don't want to offend anyone, but I think Humans of Magic is probably, I would say, the most popular, the most well known one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so good.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
James is the best. Like James,
Yeah.
and it's funny because I added him on Twitter, and I think it was like an automated message, but he kind of just sent a message back like, "Hey, like, curious why you added me, just kind of get my whatever." And we started a conversation, and he was like, there's plenty of space for people to kind of do this kind of stuff, and he actually watched one of my episodes and gave me feedback. So just
Aw.
was
That's awesome.
yeah, super cool. And actually, I'm in a Facebook Messenger or a Facebook group with some of his friends. We talk basketball. It's really wild. But I just, after that point, though, I kind of was always wary to, like, listen to new podcasts because, like, I don't want to see if other people are kind of already doing this because I wanted to just do my thing anyways, which is fine. Like,
Yeah.
whatever. I always, we're talking about streamers. Like, there are plenty of people out there. Like, there's enough viewers and, like, subs and Patreons to kind of support your work. Like, you shouldn't ever feel like someone is, like, taking away from you. There's plenty of, like, people out there who play Magic and who are interested in Magic
Absolutely.
content. So
Yes, do what you want to do.
exactly,
Even if somebody else is doing it, because you're going to do it in your way.
exactly. So that was again, shout out to James. And actually, if you and your husband were actually on an episode of Humans of Magic, so I definitely recommend. I'll probably link that below. Great episode. Again, James is the best, class act all the time. But yeah, so your podcast, 200 episodes, but you just wrapped it up. I was like, oh well, talk about, like, timing. So and I feel I shouldn't speak. One of the members was a puppet. Is that correct?
A Muppet.
Muppet, excuse me, a Muppet.
Yeah, don't say puppet.
I'm sorry.
He doesn't like that.
Okay, so I didn't. I'm not even. So is there?
No,
I don't even.
it's fine.
I'm just like, oh gosh, I'm gonna
It's just funny.
get canceled by the Muppet universe. So, what was that like working with a Muppet? And so, I mean,
It was
yeah. Sorry, go ahead. I'll let you.
yeah, it's definitely fun because he's in character, right, the whole time.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's hard to talk about it, like, otherwise. So yeah, Muppet, definitely always a Muppet, not a person behind the Muppet that I know too.
That's I mean, that in of itself is, I probably say that in and of itself, that's impressive too, just to be that character, that I don't want to say that person for that long, right? Because I think they had said you guys had done that podcast about over 5 years, 7 years, 5 to 7, somewhere in that range. I think. 18,
I don't know. Yeah, it was like 4 years.
Okay, long time. I mean, that's even doing anything, in my opinion, over like 5 months consistently is like, wow, that's impressive. So
definitely. Yeah. A
and,
lot of podcasts don't make it past, like, I think episode 20 or something is, like, the statistic.
Oh, really? Oh,
So
don't say that,
yeah.
because this is episode 18, and I'm already.
Okay.
No, we're good. It's good. We got this. I just gotta get to 21, and we'll be set. And then I can be like, see, I did it. I made it past the bare minimum. I'm in that next. What's it called? Standard deviation. That's the word I'm looking for. But yeah. So 200 episodes. Can you just kind of? I mean, for someone who just, like, likes a lot of content to consume and you're listening to stuff, like, what was, like, why don't you talk about that podcast? What was, like, for you? Like, what was, what did you guys like to talk about, sort of stuff?
Yeah, so, I mean, we were just really good friends. So basically the vibe for the podcast was, like, like, outside of your F&M when you're leaving, you just, like, end up talking to people about, like, Magic and what happened in the games and stuff. It's like that vibe, like, just kind of casual, talking about Magic. Like, we would do, like, we talk about, like, what the cutest cards were. We would do, like, silly, like, we did, like, some skits here and there, like, for fun. Like, I pretended I was, like, the gingerbread girl from the Eldraine trailer.
Okay.
So it was fun.
That's okay.
Yeah, it just was silly. And, like, during, like, COVID, like, I mean, basically, like, all of that was, we talked about that a little bit in the episodes and stuff, but when the first case was, like, in Seattle, like, that was right near TJ, and he was like, oh my gosh, like, this happened, and, like, like, Melvin joked around, he's like, don't die, and, like, because, like, we had no idea what it was going to be, and then it was like, ooh. So, but having that, like, consistency during that time was, like, I mean, huge, and, like, a lot of people said, like, oh, it was really nice to just hear, like, conversations, like, because we weren't getting out of our house as much or whatever, so it was just, It was good.
Yeah, that was definitely a wild time. I can remember my friends that I had gone to, I think, a dumpling place like right before, I think it was like the first week of March, and then we were all kind of leaving, and we're all just like, well, we'll see you at some point, and then we just didn't see them in person for like 2 years. So it was
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of, I mean, people having something to look to for, something steady is always kind of nice in turbulent times. So that's kind of nice to hear. How would you describe, like, or how would you compare like streaming versus podcasting? Because they're similar in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways they're vastly different. Does that make sense? Sure. But yeah, like, I mean, what are your thoughts on, like, streaming versus podcasting? Is, I would assume, well, I'm not going to assume anything, so I'll let you talk. Yeah, so streaming versus podcasting.
Well, so streaming for me, like, I'm the one who's like talking, right? Like, people are chatting with me and I like interact with them, but like I have a choice basically whether or not to like read their messages and like really like get involved or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
I have a lot more control. I have mods that are there to help me, like, do whatever. Like, it's mostly like, I feel like it's like the me show. I know it sounds like I don't know, like egotistical or whatever, but like I don't have to worry about how much I'm talking. Like during a podcast when there's 3 people, I'm always like, okay, well, am I talking enough? Am I talking too much? Like, just like, I don't know, it like kind of stressed me out a little bit because I'm like, oh, like, and then I would just get more nervous when I did the podcast because it wasn't, I was like not in control or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
But it was with 2 of my good friends. Like, I think it took a little bit for me to like open up and feel like, I don't know, like comfortable.
Yeah.
Because I came into the show and I was replacing somebody else that they had worked with, who sort of, they did like a faux pas, but more than a faux pas. They were sort of kicked out of the magic community.
Gotcha.
So it was a weird, like, thing kind of, because I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm like replacing somebody. So I felt like I was coming into the project versus like starting it with them, but like they're great, like but it was just like a little bit of a different dynamic.
I'm sure there's a learning curve, right? It's especially because I think I saw you joined around episode 50 or 51. Does that sound? I don't know. Which
yep.
That's a pretty. I mean, even 50 episodes, like that's a pretty good run for a podcast initially.
Definitely.
So I'm sure, like for them, they've probably had already established kind of their rhythm a little bit, and having someone come in. Now, I think it's always kind of good when you kind of bring someone in to fill a space to kind of help shake up the vibe or whatever. And being friends with them, I'm sure helped a lot as well. So that's that makes a big difference.
Yeah. It was great, but like also, it produced a little bit of social anxiety for me every week. I'd be like, okay, well, like, what are they going to want to talk about? Because like sometimes they talked about constructed, and I'd be like, I don't really care about this. Like, like, I'm sorry. I just don't, like, I want to, like, I'm glad y'all are enjoying yourself, but like, I just wasn't my thing. Or they talk about like, like current events, and I'd be like, all I want to do is draft, like, I'm just here to vibe and have a good time. But like, it just wasn't really my scene. I'm trying to get into constructed a little bit more because I do think it'd be good for me to be like well-rounded and like compete more and like. But yes.
Yeah. Do you play any Commander? Is that any?
I've played very limited Commander. So my experience with the Commander, I went to the Loading Ready Run pre-release for Eldraine, which was like amazing.
Oh wow.
And so like I'm kind of spoiled. My first Commander game was with Pleasant Kenobi. Daniel Holt he works at Wizards, and he was a guest for the PPR, and then Olivia, Affinity Artifacts.
Oh yeah.
So I borrowed like a couple of her decks, and I got to play with them at first, and John was in the game too, and it was really fun. But then I just like the politics of it. I was always like, I don't really know what to do.
Yeah.
I was on a Command podcast a few months ago, which like I should know the name of it, but I don't see because I don't like follow this stuff. They were just like, do you want to come on? I was like, sure. Like I'm trying to just say yes to more things that like scare me a little bit, like social stuff. Like I always just get like a little bit anxious.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
yeah.
I hear that. I mean, I'm glad you said yes to me. Because I'm a nobody, so I was like, all right, sweet, this is awesome.
No. Like, don't say that. Don't. No. Because okay, so like, following, like, there's so many things that go into that you can't control, right?
Yeah.
So I have 15,000 followers on Twitch, but they're not all watching my channel at once. Like, some of them don't even watch Twitch anymore. Like, those numbers don't necessarily even mean anything, right? Like, yeah.
I'm not personally a nobody. I'm actually very happy with myself. But yeah, I always joke. I'm not like, oh, I'm a nobody. No, I.
No, I was like, no, don't say that. No.
No.
But yeah, like, I mean, well, everybody's journey starts somewhere too. Like, you know, like, you're on episode 18. Like, you never know. This could, like, really take off. Like, don't sell yourself
I mean,
short.
to that point, I mean, part of the fun is, this is going to sound really cliche, but, you know, the journey is the destiny. Part of the fun for me is like, I mean, this might sound really silly, but, like, you followed me on Twitter at some point. I was like, oh, like, that's, to me, like, oh, that's a very awesome person who I, watched their stream, follow me. I was like, oh, man, I was like, oh, like, how excited, like jamietopples followed me. So I was like, oh, well, then I was like, you know what, I'll reach out. And for me, this has always been a passion project. So it's like, if no one watches it, but I enjoy making it and I enjoy what I'm doing, that's all I'm looking for. But, like, those moments where you get someone who, like, you respect and you follow in the community, kind of, like, sees you in some sort of way. So it's like, oh, cool, like, that's awesome. So, like, no, I don't want to say, like, I'm a nobody, but, like, it's the little things like that. I feel like, as someone who started who's just been very kind of slowly kind of getting their foot in the door and kind of meeting people and talking to people, it's those moments where I'm just like, okay, this is fun. Like, this is why I still, because I you talk about being nervous and you start like a podcasting, like, even this show now, well, obviously 200 episodes, or 150 for you, significantly more than 18, but, like, I start this thing up and I'm just like, do my breathing, like, focus, like, pretend you get in that mode, but it's tough. Like, it's always kind of, always can be a little bit of a challenge, having to be, like, social and talking to someone, especially because we never met in person, and really our interactions, like, I followed you on Twitter and then, like, you followed me back, and I was just like, oh, maybe she wants to come on my show. So it's really just like, the journey is, I think, a lot of the enjoyment for the curation process, for me at
Definitely.
least.
Well, just hearing you say that makes me feel good, because I've totally had those moments too. Like, when I first met Marshall, he, like, said my name. I was like, you know who I am? Oh my god! Like, what?
Yeah, it makes a big difference in a creator, someone who's, like, doing stuff. Like, when people, like, oh yeah, I've heard of you. You're like, yeah, that's like, it's like your world just kind of, like, it's great. It's a good feeling. It's definitely a good feeling.
Yeah.
So, that's funny. Yeah, it's and it's, like, tiered, right? It's like, to me, like, you're, like, this, like, pretty popular streamer, and then, like, you have your people, like, oh yeah, they knew who I was. So, like, yeah, it's funny how that kind of runs its way down through the realms, if you were, as it were. I don't know. So the Ponder podcast, 200 episodes. I definitely recommend checking out if you're just looking for something to kind of put on to listen to when you're driving. Definitely, it was a fun. Seems like it was a really fun time for you guys in that kind of show. So, okay, what I've been really, really excited to talk to you about is your art. Obviously, you fantastic Magic player, streamer, but I think some of your art streams have been, for me, some of the most impressive things I've seen. As someone who only can create, and this is going to sound more cynical than it really is, but so I'm a photographer, so, like, I always joke, well, I only can create art by, like, copying image. Like, I use my camera, but, like, when I see someone who, like, works with paints or, like, draws or whatever, I'm always just like, it blows my mind at how talented people are. And I love watching you do altars. I love watching you do your art. When I was looking at your website, like, looking at some of your and I really want to talk about this, is I think you do, I don't know if it's commissions or works, like, you take an album, like a music album, and you do a conceptual piece based off that album. To me, that is, like, literally the coolest thing in the world. You had a Led Zeppelin album that I was just like, this is, like, just amazing.
Thank you.
So, like,
thank you for saying that.
I'm just like, so, like, just unbelievably impressed with your artistic ability. I want to talk about the music stuff, but I just, let's start kind of talk about, like, what kind of got you into art. Like, what was your first? When did you decide, like, oh, like, like painting? What's your history, like, your background in, like, in the art world?
So I mean, I was in the gifted program as a child, and I think a big part of that was me, like, I drew things from my imagination, right, as a kid. Like, I
Okay.
mean, very, very, very young, like 3, 4, like I'd be drawing like things, and I look back and I'm like embarrassed to see these things, but then like at the time it's like that was pretty good for a kid,
Yeah.
right? Like, so I've always like sort of, yes, like just been drawn to making art. Like as a kid I really loved Monet and Van Gogh. I had like art books and I would just like study them, and my parents we would travel and we go to art museums, and I was just enamored with like the artists and stuff. I'm like, that's what I want to do. So then I went to college, and I have ADHD, so like getting the portfolio together was like just too much. Like I just couldn't do it, so it was like rough. So I went in for communications, and then like I changed to art history, and I was so happy. Like art history was amazing. Like I learned so much. I got to like see so much cool stuff. I did like a museum studies class, and what I learned was I was like, oh, I don't want to be the curator. I want to be the artist.
Yeah.
So like after college, I ended up doing a few shows. I worked at this place called the Goggle Works. It's like in Eastern Pennsylvania. I worked there for a while. And like I did a few shows. I sold some pieces. Like I worked at an office, and my boss like was just like really supportive. She's like, bring your work in. So I would bring it to work, and people like would buy paintings like at work. They would just like buy them out of the trunk of my car. I was like, this is great. One of them was like I listened to one Led Zeppelin song over and over and over again. I think it was Battle of Evermore, and it was like,
Okay.
I loved it. But so I've always sort of had music be connected to art, because I would just listen to music while I painted. And at this point, yeah, I have a website. I do sell like original pieces, and I just, for me, it like helps me, like it's my flow state. When I get into it, it's just, I feel good. Like even if I'm like having a really rough time, like with bipolar stuff, like it evens me out. I feel like I can actually like observe all my thoughts and like let them pass and stuff. It's so beautiful. It's just like I need it to survive, basically. Like if I don't paint for a while, I start to get like real agitated, and like it's like a part of me. Like I just need it. And then the album project, I came up with that. I was like, oh, this just seems like it'd be really fun. And then it like kind of took off. Like at first I was doing it like a lot, and like I really, really hope I get to keep doing it, because it's just like every time I do it, I'm always like, oh my God, this is the one that's going to suck. Like I'm going to be like, it's going to be terrible. But every time I'm always like, I don't know how I do it. It's so like, it's like subconscious painting. Like at this point, like, I think I'm very comfortable with like colors and like, just like, I don't know. I've just done it so much that it still amazes me though. I'm like, how, like, it's like at the end, I'm like, what, like, and sometimes I'll look at it like later, I'm like, I did this? Like, what was that? What? Like, I almost feel like I'm like in a trance, like when I do it.
So describe for my listeners what exactly the album project is. So you is it mostly based off commissions, I think, or is it you just kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do it for myself too.
Yeah.
So I did my 13 favorite albums because it's also so I submitted that for an arts festival in Pittsburgh. It did not get accepted, which is okay. Like it was pretty competitive. There was like 100 like applications for like 2 or 3 spots or something. So I was like, okay, like I'm not going to feel bad about this.
Yeah.
But it definitely like got me moving towards that, and like yes, I want to do more of it, because I don't know, it's just it's really cool. Like when people like, there's some stuff I would never have listened to by myself, so like it's just kind of neat to see like what comes of it. I had one person who bought like 5. I mean, they were just like, oh my God, I love your stuff, let's just keep doing them. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is wild. Like it's just really fun. I love like making the connection. Music is such a big part of my life. Like last year on Spotify, I listened to 77,000 minutes of music.
Oh,
like,
wow. That's
with 5,000 of my favorite band, Coheed and Cambria. So, I mean, music, I think, is also something that's very important for my, like, emotional, what's the word? It keeps me balanced.
Yeah.
Like, I need it.
So
it's like therapy.
Do you listen? So when you let's say you get an album submitted, or you have an album that you like, do you listen? Is it basically you listen like the whole album and you like conceptualize the album in physical form? I guess might be, paint for way to describe what you're kind of doing there.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I'll start listening to the album. I'll just like pay attention for a little bit, and then I pick out the colors. I'm like, okay, this is like the feel, and then like so I my process is I put the paint directly on the canvas, and I sort of like work with it, and then at some point I blow dry it, and then do like I use like paint pens on top to do like the more like detailed stuff.
Okay.
It just that's how I ended up. Yeah, it's a good process for me. I love it because it like saves a lot of time if you just put stuff right on the canvas. And I think it's really cool to watch because you're like it's about an hour. Most albums are like 45 minutes to an hour. So sometimes at the end I'll have to like listen to a couple other songs on a different album or like start like listening to it again because I don't want to rush. It usually takes about an hour to finish one. They're like 8x10s is what I do at this point, but I've done like the 12x12s for myself.
Yeah.
When I do it alone, I also love to just sing. I'm trying to get over like my nervousness of singing in front of people. Because I really do love to do it. And I listened to a lot of rock band in college and stuff. Like I played a lot of rock band in high school, college. I think like I learned how to sing really well because like I can actually match the pitch and I can get like 100%. I didn't know that was not normal. Like I thought like if you just played enough, like you would get to that point.
Nope. Can confirm
I'm very,
not normal.
I'm just very good at mimicking sounds.
Yeah.
Like, even like my cat, sometimes I'll like, people are like, was that your cat? I'm like, no, that was me talking to my cat. Like, so, right. I don't know. It's just a thing.
That's it. Singing is as someone who can't sing, I think it's super impressive. So when the album thing is so cool to me. So much I want to dig into. When you're listening to the album, do you like conceptualize your painting as a whole, or is it kind of like revealed as you kind of go through the song list, or like do you just kind of let the songs take you in a particular direction as you start working?
Absolutely. So I have that thing where like if you imagine something, like somebody's like imagining an apple, like I don't see an apple, like it's just not there. Like I have it, it's like blank, right? Okay. So if it's like, I always want to say Fantasia, but that's not the right thing. It's close.
Synthesia?
Oh, that's when your two things blend, and I do think I have that a little bit too.
Okay.
But I think. See, now I'm getting confused. But there's a word like where you don't, your imagination, you can't like see it in your mind's eye.
Okay.
That's me. Like when I started painting, I don't know where it's gonna go. Like sometimes I can like I'm painting a mural in my living room right now, and I did like a conceptual piece for it. Like I was like, I want it to be a moon and a sky, but I didn't. That's basically it. Like just like very minimal stuff. But with the art stuff, I just kind of listen and try to like. It's almost like I'm using the painting as like an instrument. I know it's a weird thing to say, but
no. I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, that's wild to me that. Gosh, you don't even, and maybe this is the photographer in me, because in my head, when I take photos, I see the photo in my head before I take the picture. Like in my head, like this is what I'm looking for, and like I'm using obviously the camera, the tool to capture that image. So for you, and this is this is just the beauty of art, really, is that the process is like to hear you go, oh no, I don't see the image. It's revealed to me as I do my work. Like that's
the fun part.
Yeah.
Like it's so cool because I'm always like I don't know where it's going, and then when it's done, I'm like, there's some like I made this. Oh, can I grab it actually? I made a fan piece for Coheed and Cambria, and it is just like so detailed. Like I get lost in it. But this, so this is like their symbol.
Okay.
Oh gosh.
Oh wow!
But like, do you see how like little the details get?
Yeah, that's wild. It's just like to me, I'm just like I wouldn't even know where to start to create anything like that. And it's like it's funny because like in my notes I wrote down big impressionist vibes, like Monet. I guess like she must be a Monet because like I can see
I
it,
was as a kid, one of my favorites.
Yeah, and it's like I'm a big fan of the Impressionists myself. My wife got me into them, and that sounded really bougie, but I'm not. But like, I was like, I'm very a big fan of Monet. No, but like but definitely can see the inspiration in your work for sure. But like, yeah, it's just like, and I'm for me, I and maybe this, and again, I'm going to use photography as my reference. Like photography is almost very for the most part, it's very literal in terms of like what you take an image of a scene. So like that's kind of like my main meaning. But I see stuff like impressionist work, and I think that probably what draws me to a lot of other ideas in photography. It's so like imaginative and almost like amorphous. Like I'm just like that really speaks to me in a way that like I think influences how I kind of want to like do my own art in a way. So I don't know. It's just like I just love like listening to your process because especially when we talk about music as well. I think a lot of times like I play a lot of music with my friends, but like I think one of the purest forms of like music creation is you sit down with no what's the word? I don't know. There's just nothing like settled, nothing like planned out, and you just like start a jam, and you just let the jam kind of roll and kind of evolve, and you hit on something, and sometimes you'll hit on a groove or like a riff, and you just kind of like build that out of nowhere, and like those sort of moments are really when you're like, yeah, like this is like the purest form of like creation in a lot of way. I don't know. There's like a feeling there that like I don't know if people who don't actually do like music or art can really comprehend in a lot of ways. It's just like when you create there's something about creating that's so just like addictive, Yes,
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
Sorry, I went on a little rant there,
Well,
but I just
no. For me, it feels like I'm connecting to like my higher self or something at the very least. Like it feels like it's flowing through me. Like I'm just a conduit.
Yeah.
But it's really cool when you get that feeling because you're like, oh wow, like yeah, see, like so music. I am a jammer. Like I made some music with my husband. Like we had these little songs, and like he is like a professional musician. Like he's when he was in college, they had like MTV Band of the Year. Like he's got to open for like Hanson and like Circus Survive, really cool bands. He never talks about it because he's not like. I don't know, he doesn't like to brag or whatever, but I'm always like, oh my gosh, like that's so cool. Like
that is cool.
But yeah, and he had a couple other bands, and so like I was like, let's try to make music together and see what happens. And like so like I think I can sing, right? Like I'm okay. So but like he's very methodical. He practices like 2 hours a day every day. I mean, he is like very he doesn't think he's talented. He thinks he's, just practiced enough that he thinks he's good. He's very talented. He doesn't, like to see it or talk about it or whatever. But, so I just kind of come in and like, I'll start singing, but I'll be like, just kind of like humming bars and stuff. Like, and then we come up with lyrics later, like, and yeah, I mean, like, and I messed around on the keyboard and like, do like drum stuff. Like,
no, that's cool.
It's just fun.
Yeah,
like,
no, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, music. Music. There's something about music too, and I had the joke about it. I think it's the curse of the artist. Like you never think you're good, right? I mean, like there's a level like when you hit a point, you're like, you're like proficient at your whatever, but someone I don't know. In my experience, a lot of times, like when you're just like, I don't know, I'm okay. Like I guess I'm okay, or I'm not. I'm whatever. I'm kind of just whatever. But like it's like the
well, I don't know anybody who like really loves the sound of their own voice, right?
Yeah.
Like people tolerate it or whatever. Like I don't like to listen to myself talk. Like I never go back and listen to conversations or like podcasts and stuff. Like I'll tell people about this podcast and they should listen to it and stuff. But it makes me, I just feel weird listening to myself talk or sing, So I think that's pretty common though.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've recently started forcing myself to listen to my podcast back to like hear myself and how to work on stuff, but it's
good. That's how you improve.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, but it's hard. I cannot stand the sound of my own voice, so I'm just like, oh god, like.
I think you have like a good podcast voice.
Oh well, I appreciate that. That means a lot, so that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, that's honestly probably the best compliment I've gotten in a long time. So thank you very much.
Aw. You sound like you are a podcaster, which you are. So it's
there
good.
we go. Perfect. Okay. All right. So talk about music. So we stumbled upon. I stumbled upon your SoundCloud Bandcamp. I still don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, Bandcamp. Yeah.
Topplebangers.
Yeah,
all bangers,
that's just what
all
the
time.
placeholder for for our name. Yeah, and so we actually John made a really epic song for CubeCon. I don't know if you've heard of CubeCon. They do it. It's like a yearly event now.
I have heard of it. Yes. I'm assuming you play a lot of cube there. Is that the?
It's all cubes. People bring cubes and like you compete like and they have prizes and stuff. It's like it's really cool. It's kind of big. Like Sam Black goes, Caleb D. So yeah, I'll be there this time, and John. Like yeah. So.
Where's it at? Where's it at this year?
It's in Madison because that's where J-Bro is from, and he's like the head honcho of it. You know, he puts it together, and he's like a really big cuber. Like every year they do like charity cubes and stuff, and J-Bro always is like, not always, but pretty much the leader every time. Like he's just very good at what he does. He's very enjoyable to watch. He's a blast. Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
all right. Well,
he's also in government. Like he's like I don't know what he does, but it's important.
He's the man. He works. He's not. He works for the man, or he is the man. One of the two.
Yeah, he's like a representative, I think. I'm just blanking. Oh, that's terrible.
like a House representative, like a U.S.
And maybe not that high up, but yeah, he he's a government.
Oh, maybe like a state representative.
Job. Maybe that might be right. Yeah.
Putting my political science degree to use right there. Levels of government. Yeah. It's funny. But yeah, so Topplebangers has some hilarious songs. This episode end credits will be featuring Blanket Hug, which I thought was hilarious. It's do you watch this show Succession out of curiosity? Is that
No,
okay.
But should I?
It's very good. It's on HBO. Season 4 or 5 right now is currently just started, and it's the final season. Always like a show that has a tight, end goal. You don't want these shows to kind of go on forever and just wait around and not knowing what their storyline is going. But the joke will be lost on you then. But there's a guy who has a party for his birthday, and he's like tells the DJ, all bangers all the time. All I want are bangers. So like that just they made me laugh. So it's like okay, but
that's funny.
Yeah. So end credits, Blanket Hug. Please stick around and listen to that for sure. Yeah. Again, they're kind of silly, but like they're really well produced and they sound great. Like they are fun to listen to.
Yeah. We have like a little recording studio in the basement, basically. Like John he's a big music person. Like he plays guitar every day. He practices singing like most days a week. Like he plays drums, he plays bass. Like he plays piano a little bit. He's very good at the music stuff, and he won't admit to it, but he is.
That's cool.
And like especially recording things. Like he gets things done pretty quickly.
That's the impressive part, because musicians aren't necessarily known for their haste when it comes to making music sometimes. So
yeah, like some of those pieces we did in like a few hours, like 2 hours, 3 hours total.
Really? Oh wow, so that's even more. That's yeah. But again, sometimes just the spontaneity of like, let's just go do this thing and knock it out, and boom, like let's there's I'm gonna tell the story anyways. There's a story about there's a song called Instant Karma. It's a John Lennon song, and he wrote it. I think he was still in the Beatles, but he was interested in writing and recording and releasing a song in just 24 hours. So like he knocked it out. And I think George Harrison is actually on the album or on the song playing guitar. But it was just, it's a cool song. It's like one of my favorite John Lennon songs, but just the idea of like, let's see if we can do this, sometimes restriction breeds creativity sometimes, which is a fun little,
definitely does.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
So anyways, Jamie, thank you again so much for joining me. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Just a few other things I wanted to point out. Oh, wow. Okay, so that's next week. I should, hopefully, this will probably be out, but you're going to be in San Diego on the weekend for DreamHack San Diego. You're going to be out there with, is John coming with you?
Yes. He is, yep.
Okay,
yep.
Cool.
And then, we'll be there with my team, Top Deck Studios.
So. Top Deck, yeah. You have a booth, like a full booth kind of setup, or?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Nerd Girl is the leader of the group. She's awesome. Like, just very hardest worker I know. Like, she's just always like so organized and together. And yeah, she runs the team. She's great.
She seems, she definitely seems like she's got a lot, like, going on, but like managing a lot, and just she's one of these days I'm gonna have veggie, because I think veggie's part of that part of that group as well. And we're like,
Yeah. Yep. They make a
Trying
lot
to-
of content together. Yep.
Yep.
The commander stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. I'm gonna have them be like, Veggie, introduce me to Nurgle. I would like to have her on my show sometime. Try to use that relationship to thing. But yeah. So
Yeah.
DreamHack San Diego. So obviously, if this episode gets out when I plan it to be, it should be out before then. So come say hi. I will hopefully come say hi, get to meet you, and hopefully your husband. Love to talk magic and music with you guys. That'd be a little
Cool.
fun time. Additionally, so what I do when I have my guests on is just kind of some way to kind of, I think, do something kind of cool with my guests is I have them pick a charity of their choice to make a donation to. So you chose the the ACLU. So I'll be the show and tell show will be making a donation to them to kind of our name. It's just Civil Liberties Union is a great organization. Definitely support their cause. So I'm definitely glad to support them and. In that way. Also, what I like to do with my creators is I'm just going to pop up my community board with the magic of video editing. So I was like this up. And, I talk about, I try to talk a big game about community. And what I do is to kind of be able to support my guests even after the show is over is I believe you have a Ko-Fi or Coffee. I never know how to say that. Coffee?
I don't either.
Yeah.
I really don't. Kofi, coffee. Yeah. Because I think it's supposed to be like buy somebody coffee.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's
Yeah.
So regardless, I know you have one. So
Yeah.
The show will basically going to sign up for your coffee to have a recurring, essentially buy you a small coffee every month, as it were, just a small way we can continue to kind of help you, continue to stream and create art and just pursue music or whatever endeavors you want. I think you are a wonderful streamer and you have a fantastic personality, and I really appreciate you coming on and spending your time with me. So it's just a small way that I can kind of continue to support you and your endeavors into the future.
Oh, that is so awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it. This was really fun. I'm glad you had me on. It was an honor. It was good.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad people if at the end you're like, I had a good time. Okay, good. It's always
I
a
did.
fear.
Like it went so fast. I was like, oh my gosh, we've been talking for like over an hour and a half. Like it was a good conversation.
I'm glad.
You're good at this.
Oh, thank you. Well, God, it's gonna make me blush right now. Goodness, I'm already kind of. I don't have a mustache. I'm gonna turn very red very soon. So,
I'm also the same way. I get like flushed sometimes. Yeah.
I used to turn so red when I was little. Anyways, so again, Jamie, thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, I will link all your socials. Please check out Jamie's stream. If you're gonna be in San Diego, check out DreamHack. Check out Topplebangers. Stick around to listen to Blanket Hug, and I guess if you're interested and you enjoyed the show, feel free to subscribe. That's always cool. The YouTube, this is available on I think most podcast versions or whatever however you get your podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter. I post silly things. I don't know. I post magic stuff and talk about the Lakers a lot, and basketball and photography or whatever. So, Jamie, thank you again. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night.
That's great. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Why are there like a million blankets on this couch? I can't even lay down straight. There's no room for my feet. I'm getting rid of some of these. I'm getting rid of all of them.
I'm so cold right now. I need a hug right now. Blanket
Bye bye, Topplebangers. Why are there like a million blankets on this couch? I can't even lay down straight. There's no room for my feet. I'm getting rid of some of these. I'm getting rid of all of them.